Are we live?
Yeah.
Live now. Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Tea Time SEO. It's 4 o'clock. I hope you've got your tea and your cake. I have a beautiful muffin today. Blueberries baked by my daughters. Hopefully it's edible and they won't poison me during the show. I'm Lawrence O'Toole, the CEO and founder of Authoritas. You will notice, the observant of you will notice if you tune in every day, that I am not SEO Joe Blogs hosting. I will try and stand in her stead as she's got her own Digi Day today. With me, we have got Carrie Shepherd from the Authoritas marketing team.
Hi, guys.
And thanks, Carrie. And I've got three fantastic speakers, some of whom are back for the second and third time. So in no particular order, I've got Paul Lovell from Always Evolved SEO. What he doesn't know about Google Tag Manager isn't worth knowing. He was on talking about technical SEO recently with Franco, which was great. Second, we've also got Luci from Blue Array. Luci Wood's first time today on Tea Time SEO, but I think you're the third member of the Blue Array team to be on Tea Time SEO. So thanks very much for your support. Really looking forward to getting into your slides. And last but most certainly not least, it's Kristina Azarenko, all the way, I believe, from Toronto. Third time on Tea Time SEO, so you must be a glutton for punishment, but you're very generous with your time and your knowledge. Really looking forward to getting into your tips today. I've seen lots of people, some of the regulars are tuning in. Stephanie, Ellen, Azim, Tom and Sarah. So a big shout out to you all. Please get your questions in. Otherwise, you'll have to listen to my questions and I can talk all afternoon. So I'm going to stop there and hand over to our first speaker.
Yeah, hey everyone. My name is Kristina and I'm an e-commerce and technical SEO consultant. I have more than 10 years of experience in SEO and digital marketing, and I've worked for agencies and for clients in-house, and I'm a consultant. So I also created the SEO challenge course for those people who want to learn SEO, and I absolutely love website migrations and e-commerce SEO. So that's why I talked about website migrations 2 days ago, and today I'm talking about e-commerce. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, so I'm Paul Lovell, always evolving SEO. I've been in SEO digital marketing game for over 10 years. Mainly work with like startups and large e-commerce sites. Yeah, been getting really into schema a lot via Tag Manager over the last sort of like 6 to 12 months. And then Google released that you're allowed to do it after John Mueller said you can't. And then, yeah, just basically into anything search and analytics related, really.
Hey guys, I'm Luci. I am an SEO director at Blue Array, and I oversee strategy for some of our biggest clients. My particular areas of interest in SEO are e-commerce and also emerging search trends. And my claim to fame, I currently hold the record for the most corgis included in a Brighton SEO presentation. So that's me.
Hey, so first of all, Luci, I love your record.
Luci, how many corgis was there?
How many were there? I think there were 37 in the end.
Oh my God.
Presentation, so there was a lot of corgi goodness in there.
Yeah, I remember that one. I can't remember what the talk was about, but I know there was a lot of corgis. I remember seeing that one.
It was mostly about corgis, I guess. Okay, so to my e-commerce SEO tips. What I found when I was looking into many websites of my clients, I noticed that one of the most popular pages on the online stores are categories. So my main recommendation would be to create create categories. So, and when I'm talking about categories, I'm not talking about just going and creating pages without putting any thought in it. I'm talking about valuable categories. What I mean by valuable categories are categories which are properly optimized, so they have title tags, proper title tags, they have unique content, and they also have enough products to display. So for example, like 1, 2 products is not enough. 6, 9 is enough, and that these new categories are also added in the existing infrastructure of the website. So whenever you add a new page, a new category, make sure that it's included in the internal linking as well. And I'm going to give you 4 ways to find the killer ideas for new categories. Yep. So the first way is to think not only about the characteristics of your product, but also about the use case. Here's an example from one of my clients. They are selling customized baby gifts. So when you think about baby gifts, you can think about baby gifts for girls, for boys, all the different kinds, like blankets, milestone blankets, and all the stuff. But at the same time, there are use cases, how these gifts can be used. And one of the use cases is when people buy it for first birthday, to give this as a gift to parents or to baby. So, and when you think about this, there's a lot into it. And the search volume, you can see the search volume is huge. So it's definitely worth tackling this search term. And in general, the bottom line here is to think more not only about the characteristics of your products, but also how they can be used. If you have like many gifts, think about how people can search for them, not only about the type of gifts, but also when they can give these gifts to other people. The second The second one is using Google image search to get suggestions. I personally love it because you can get the information right from Google, and this information is really amazing and helps you think about new ways of how you can categorize your products. So if you, for example, sell swing chairs, you can see that there are different types, like indoor chair, outdoor chair, garden chair, living room chair, and these can give you an idea of, okay, so I can group my products, my chairs differently, so that I can have a separate category for all these types. So when people are looking for a specific type of chair, they will find my category page. The third one is research your filters. I had a talk back in March about how you create facet pages on filters based on some specific criteria. You can have a look at the framework that I created at the link you can see below the image. But the idea is that you should find filters which have enough demand, which means they have search volume, people are looking for these, people are interested in them, and create indexable facets or categories based on these filters. For example, if you see that people are looking for, I don't know, red socks, just coming up with some random examples. So create a category with red socks. It sounds pretty straightforward, but I see that many companies are really missing this. And the last tip, the last way how you can find great ways like to categorize your products is using internal site search. Use it always. Make sure that it's enabled. Go to your admin view settings and enable site search, and make sure that you also specify the query parameter that your website is using, so that when all this information is aggregated and seen in your Google Analytics, you can go to behavior, site search, and search terms and see what people are actually looking on your website. This is the best way to get first-hand ideas from your potential customers. If you see, for example, that many people are looking for black backpacks, maybe there is an opportunity for you to create a separate landing page, a separate category page, which lists all these black backpacks. So these are my four ways how to find ideas for new categories, because, as I said, categories are very important for online stores, and they get most of the visits and are driving most revenue.
That's super. Thank you, Kristina. Yeah, so these are my couple of tips for you guys out there. My first one is, remember that search engine optimization is, sorry, SEO is search engine optimization, not Google or Bing optimization. So don't pull your eggs in one basket. If you're wanting to drive more traffic to your site, there's other search engines outside of Google and Bing. One of my clients, they sell copper sinks, very niche, but they actually get more traffic from Pinterest than what they do Google. So each day when I look at their analytics, I see that Pinterest organic referrals are much higher than what Google organic are. And that just shows you that you haven't just got to rely on Google. And as SEOs, if there's a platform where there's a search feature, then you can optimize for it, whether it's using hashtags or whatever it is within that search engine or platform, like Pinterest, for example. Next slide. And my second one is to use Google Tag Manager to apply a no index tag to your internal search pages with a low number of items. So Kristina touched on this as well. So long and short of it, if you carry out a query using your internal search and Google is able to crawl those pages, we want to make sure that we're sending that correct signal to Google to let them know not to index it. So if you've only got like 1 or 2 products or even no products, you can set up a variable within Tag Manager. Use that as your trigger to then fire a no index tag. Using that same sort of like container, you can then also turn that into a Google event, which then is going to send that as an event into Google Analytics, which then you can then off of that event fire an alert that will go through to the SEOs or to the development teams to let them know that there might be an issue. So say for instance on Black Friday, if there's lots of people that are searching for Black Friday deals or sale or whatever new product that's come out, so you sell trainers and you've not got a particular brand in stock, but everyone's searching for it, it gives you that information that people are coming to buy stock from your platform. And if you've not got that stock, it gives you a good indication to go and buy it and make sure that you're able to sell that to your existing client base. And yeah, that's my 2 tips.
Super, thanks, Paul. Luci.
All right, so my tips are featured more or less around filters, which Kristina's already touched on. So the first one is don't canonicalize your filter pages upwards. So this is something that we see time and time again with e-commerce sites. Usually when they're just starting out, they will canonicalize their filter pages, all of them back up to a subcategory page or the category page itself. And essentially what that means is they're then missing out on that longer tail traffic that they could get for those filters. So the alternatives here are creating a static URL equivalent for that filter page and then canonicalizing your parameterized filter page over to the static equivalent. So you can see in that screenshot there, you've got maxi dresses and then those boxes underneath are all links off to particular filters. All of those link to a static URL rather than a parameterized URL. You can do it either way. It just tends to be that if you have a static equivalent, that it's nice and neat. The only exception here is where you have not got enough products. So as kind of Kristina says, you have to kind of strike a balance for your own niche as to what constitutes not enough products, but generally less than 5. You would be looking to kind of canonicalize back upwards. So that is tip 1. So tip 2 relates to the order in which you apply filters. So again, a common problem is depending on the order in which a user applies filters, it can create a lot of different URLs for exactly the same thing. So in this example here, I've taken a black maxi dress or a black silk maxi dress, and we can see all of these different combinations for essentially what is exactly the same thing. So ways to mitigate this. Next slide, please. Thank you. So there are some options here. The first one is to put a rule in place to ensure that your filters are only added to the URL in a consistent order. So typically that'll be something like color, material, style. And that means that you're only going to get one URL. And that's going to reduce kind of any of your crawl budget issues. Your other option, you can choose a canonical. So you can choose one of these various URLs as your canonical. and canonicalize the others to it. Or your third option is to put a no index tag on all of the duplicates and just keep one. Now, options 2 and 3 will help with duplicate content, but they're not going to help with the crawl budget issues. So if you have got a large e-commerce site, generally option 1 is the best one to go for. Right, so tip 3, and again, this is something that the others touched on, the importance of having updated metadata on your filtered pages alongside content, because really the way that you're going to gain more organic traffic and build that visibility is by having those filtered keywords available on the page. So in terms of scale, usually you can do this by dynamic updating in the CMS. But you do need to make sure that you sanity check how you're actually naming the filters. So in this example here, we can see that the CMS is basically, the H1 was women's designer dresses, and the CMS is then injecting the jumper dress filter. But because the filter has been called a jumper dress instead of just jumper, you've now got women's designer jumper dress dresses, which looks pretty bad for users. So if you're going to go down this route, then it makes sense just kind of scanning through all of your filters and making sure that when you kind of build them into a dynamic H1 or a title, that they actually do make sense. Cool. The last one, which in my opinion is quite overlooked, is using internal linking to your advantage. So when you've actually gone through all of the work and the keyword research that goes into building these pages, don't forget to link them. So you can link to your kind of key filter pages from other places on the site. That can be blog posts, that can be new trend pages. But again, if you have got filter pages that are parameterized, it's probably worth creating static equivalents of them because they just look neater and tidier. And if you're going to link to them from places like your homepage or the footer, it just generally looks neater. So it's worthwhile considering doing that too.
Great. Super. Thank you, Lucy. Thanks, Kristina. Thanks, Paul. I just encourage everyone on the live stream, if you've got any questions, please do fire them in. And I'm sure that the team will be very happy here to answer them for you. In advance of any coming in, perhaps I can just start with one. And it just relates to just clarifying site search for me. So we talked about static URLs and parameterized URLs. If you've got a CMS that puts out relatively friendly URLs, let's say in my example, I don't know, blue golf top, for example, but obviously I've got multiple sizes and multiple colors, and it creates all these parameterized URLs which you don't want Google indexing. Are you saying, but for the friendly canonicalized URL for the golf top, would you, in terms of site search, are you saying, I think Paul mentioned, no index pages with a low volume of products? Obviously, Google's given some advice because it doesn't want to do this, doesn't want to end up in infinite crawl loops to kind of no index site search at all. So where's the balance to be struck?
Yeah, I think that a little bit will depend on how the site's actually made up. I mean, a lot of sites will go down the route of just no indexing their search pages as a blanket rule. Now, I think that can work, but it shouldn't be done at the expense of, if you don't have those other kind of filtered URLs, then potentially you are missing out. But I think what you don't want to then have is if your search URLs are indexable, so say it's blue golf top, and you're surfacing a search result page for blue golf top, but then you also have this other page for blue golf tops that you've got indexed, then again, you've got that kind of duplicate content situation going on. So I think you kind of have to make a call which one you want to be indexed, whether that is the search page or whether that is kind of your own static or parameterized page that you've got.
Okay, perfect. Paul, Kristina, any other additional thoughts or comments on that?
Yeah, I've worked with platforms before where you have a standard sort of like query parameter URL. It will then canonicalize to a clean URL, so without the parameters. Essentially, it's still the same. It's still the same functionality, but they just give it a clean URL, and it still has that same X amount of results for that query on the page. And what I have found by applying the no index tag is, for one, it can help you control those additional parameters. And the example that I usually use is like a leather handbag, as in, yeah, there's lots of queries for leather handbag. Black leather handbag, there's far more than what there is for blue leather handbag, for example. So you might want to allow the black leather handbag version to be indexed, but the other colors not be indexed. And that's where, I mean, getting a little bit more advanced with Tag Manager, you can do that dynamically. And the reason I like using it is because it sort of takes a little bit of that timeline and delay in implementation away from development teams. So in that way, you're not sitting on your hands waiting for developers to make changes, which are relatively quite quick if you're dealing with it in Tag Manager. So it gives, and then you can get them to update it to a more sort of like robust version if they wanted. But yeah, but with the crawl budget, what I found as well is that with no index, yeah, Google does still come back every now and then, but it visits those pages a lot less often than if it was a full index page, for example. And the ability is that then, as the retailer then purchases more of that product, for example, and then it comes out of that sort of set filter of like however many products to no index, it then takes that no index away. So then that way, when Google does come back, or if you go to Search Console and request it to be indexed, it will then be allowing it to be indexed very quickly and dynamically. So the development team and us as SEOs haven't really got to do much. It naturally get picked up.
Nice. That's great. All right. I think we've got a question coming in from Stephanie to everybody. In your experience, what are the most effective ways to research e-commerce categories and filters in order to identify and use those with the most opportunity?
I'd say that one of the best things is to look into your Google Analytics, because you have their information on which filters people were applying, because you'll see which URLs people were visiting. And also do general keyword research. For example, so this is an example from the framework that I talked about previously. It was a website for t-shirts, custom t-shirts. So keyword research in this case would be pretty easy. I choose, for example, color, brand, and size or something, and some other options. So I add color, different like yellow, custom t-shirts, blue, custom t-shirts. I did it on a scale, and so which kind of filters would have any opportunity. And based on this, I identified which filters should have separate pages which will be indexable and which will not. For example, in that case, having size didn't prove to be valuable. So we didn't include size as an indexable facet. But when it comes to colors, it was really a good option. So yeah, what you can do is to look at your Google Analytics and also do some initial keyword research to understand what's going on in terms of any search volume, potential search volume.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Anything else to add, Lucy or Paul?
Yeah, so I would also add, I think what Kristina says in terms of kind of looking at search volume is always a really good place to start. Another thing that I like to do, again, this maybe is more of an agency thing because we have various clients that we work with, but it's important to have a really good understanding of the client's stock, what they actually sell, and then also just understanding the brand and what their values are. So to use an example, we had a client who is in the e-commerce space, and they sort of specialize in selling luxury and ethical products. So, and they also sell clothing. And one of the filters, for example, or one of the filter opportunities that came up was fur. So like fur jackets and fur coats. But to have suggested, even though it had really good search volume, to have suggested that as a filter would have been, one, against the actual kind of core values of the brand, and two, they just wouldn't have had those products to fill that category anyway. So if they did get visibility for fur jackets, if a user comes along and lands on that page, they're just going to bounce straight away because the products just don't match the filter. So I think there's a lot to be said for having a bit of awareness about, the brand and the products and what makes them special and those kind of things.
Yeah, 100%.
I think we actually had an interesting use case with a company, what was called Price Minister in France, and now called Rakuten, a very big e-commerce site in France for a client of ours. And they used one of our big data products to analyze the whole market. So they ranked for 900,000 keywords on the first 3 pages of Google, which is pretty good, obviously. But we found, I think, 4.2 million keywords in the marketplace for them from their top 100 competitors. And then what they did was really clever, which all down to them, not to us. They clustered. We clustered the data into keyword sets based on search volume and relevance. So just observing the natural clusters of keywords in the marketplace. Here's a cluster about black leather handbags, and they didn't have an SEO friendly landing page for that. There was demand for that, so they matched those keywords to their product catalog. And to Paul's point about automation, devised a way of automating those pages and surfacing them so they got indexed when Google was crawling their site. And needless to say, they went up to about another 300,000 keywords ranking in the first 3 pages of Google within 4 to 6 weeks. And obviously, that's what you can do at scale with automation and keyword research. Obviously, for most sites, and they've got a big data science team, for most sites, that's probably beyond what they can do. But I think there's some very innovative things that you guys have suggested to do. And obviously, some of those require a manual sort of SEO expertise, but some of those things can be automated with a bit of know-how and a bit of creativity. So I've just got another couple of questions coming in here. One from Tom. What's the worst feck up you've seen on a large e-commerce site, and how did you resolve it?
I can go first. So when I was just starting, when I was working at an agency, I remember that there was a huge, amazing, I love this client, store. And I recommended adding canonical tags because they had lots of duplicate content. And I remember the developers on the other side, they added them, and we were waiting and waiting and waiting. I didn't really know how much time it should take to pick up canonicals for Google. But at some point, I decided, okay, I should do something. So I just checked the source code, and I realized that instead of canonical href, they had a misspelling. It was canonical hfair. So I think that classifies as a fuck up. And that's how I decided to start to become a technical SEO, because this minor thing ruined everything. So that was pretty interesting. And how to fix it? I just talked to the developers and explained to them, and they fixed this. But it was funny.
Perfect. Lucy, Paul, any other ones to top that?
Yeah, I've got a major one. I actually walked away from the project because of this. So this was a very large platform. At the time, they had 1.3 billion products on there. They were moving the URL structure away from, like, it's an international platform, so they're moving away from a subdomain to a sub folder strategy based off what I said to them. The second part of it was, okay, you need to have a big redirection project in place to ensure that everything gets passed over. If they're listening, they know exactly who they are, because their CTO said that they're not going to do that. And I was like, well, you're gonna tank. And various other discussions went on. They still decided not to take my advice and implement the redirection project, and just let Google do its thing. And yeah, they dropped like a sack of potatoes. And yeah, that was the end of that engagement with them. But yeah, so it didn't have a good turnout for them. But yeah, that's the worst one that I've seen, and that's why I was like, look, if you're not going to listen, then I can't help you.
We'll have to get some more details on that at the Tea Time SEO SEO advice session, which we'll have to do one day. What about you, Lucy? Anything's coming on that?
I've seen a few. I think one of the ones that made me laugh was, again, an e-commerce brand, but they had independent sellers upload the products to the site. So no kind of quality control or checking of what you'd be naming these products. So there's kind of a trend, I think, for products to name them women's names, which is fine in itself. But the particular product in question was a pair of nude coloured heels, and they were called, I think they were called Phoebe. But instead of being called like Phoebe nude or beige high heels, it was just called Phoebe nude. And the client came to us and they said, we're getting a lot of traffic for this particular product. Like, do you know why it's so popular? And I was like, yeah, I think so. So we had a bit of a kind of re-education piece for their designers to actually think about how they name products for SEO, because a lot of traffic is great, but that traffic wasn't going to convert. They weren't going to buy a pair of high heels, put it that way.
Brilliant. It's a shame that traffic wasn't converting, but I can understand why. That's great. Well, I'm sure there's many more war stories there. I think we've just got a couple quick questions, if that's okay. This is my favorite one about e-commerce, which is you see a lot of examples of sites stuffing category pages with long sentences, paragraphs, sometimes more than that, of text to try and improve their overall relevance and get one over the competition. I've seen John Mueller in a Webmaster Hangout say, don't do this. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, I still see pages that are performing very well with this kind of approach. And some of them are really even quite spammy and the content's not that good. So, what's your thoughts? Does it work? Should you do it? What do you advise your clients?
I'll go first. The page that I think Luci showed, where it showed that nice bit of content at the top, that's what John Mueller was saying. He was saying place the content at the top, not at the bottom of the page, because no one's going to see it at the bottom, or very few people see it at the bottom. So it's not really written for the user. Then it's just there. I mean, like Google used to be back in the 80s, where you could just stuff it full of whatever you wanted. But yeah, so yeah, if you write for the user and you place it at the top, then I believe that's fine. And if even if it's a case that above the fold you only get that first line of like 3 products, for example, then that's better than trying to just dump it all at the bottom, which I still see leading brands doing now. I was nearly said a name, but I thought I better not. But yeah, so at the top is fine as far as I'm concerned, and it's got to be good for the user, obviously.
All right. So and a little bit of content, or how far do you go?
I think you've got to look at using something like Hotjar and sort of see what that interaction is. If you drop those products below the fold, I think you should at least have at least 3 products there to give them that tease to scroll down, rather than just putting like a big chunk of text there. Okay. Because you can also pull in text from those products themselves. So you could say, right, pull in the first 50 characters of each product, sort of thing. And if you're clever with your SEO, you'll find that you'll make that unique anyway between all of those snippets.
Okay, great. Lucy's nodding away there.
Yeah, I think generally this conversation point or question tends to go round and round. And I think there's been kind of argument from people saying, well, actually, I've dumped a bunch of text on the bottom and it does work. But I'm in agreement with Paul in that actually it's a little bit of content at the top. And the other thing as well is with kind of Google moving, that their understanding of the category page is better. And you have to kind of strike a balance between the content that you're putting there in terms of intent. So if somebody's on a category page, generally speaking, they have a shopping intent. They don't have an informational intent. They don't need to know the ins and outs of the product. They're there to look at the products. So I think that there are other ways as well to get around this. So it doesn't necessarily have to be written copy on that page. You can also link to kind of popular products or kind of other accessories, or linking to kind of best-selling products. So I think that there are ways to kind of add value and context to a category page that isn't just the usual dump a load of written copy on there and hope for the best.
Well, just on that point, what about things like buyer's guides and FAQ, schema markup? Google's obviously very big on Q&As at the moment. So would you incorporate any of that, any of your clients doing that in product pages?
Product pages, yes, more so than kind of a category page. Some have done it on the category page, but generally, again, because your category page is more kind of a browsing point, by the time you've got to that product page, you are invested in learning more about that product. And it tends to be where you're actually interested in knowing the kind of ins and outs of a particular product. So the Q&As. I mean, I guess it depends, as everything does. It depends on that PLP. If those questions are appropriate for all of the products that you are listing, then maybe. But I would say, yeah, only if it's really valuable. Otherwise, I tend to go with a product page.
Okay, perfect, great. And Kristina, do you want to come in finally on that at all in your thoughts on content on category pages?
Well, I basically agree with what Paul and Luci said, and just to add one thing is that don't discount alternative tags for images, because when you have a category page, you're listing different pictures of your products. Google also considers alternative tags or these images, so use it wisely as well. And this is one of the ways to add valuable content and signals in general to your category pages.
Brilliant. Okay, that's great. Well, look, I'm going to ask you one final question, just because I've got the mic, if that's okay, before we wrap up. So I don't got any more questions from the audience, but it's the one we've all come up against. Okay, and just maybe one thought from each of you on this. For your client, you're competing against Amazon. What do you do? How do you outrank them for stuff you really care about? Who wants to come in?
See where you can get them around the edges, so to say, as in if obviously you're probably not going to outrank them just because of their authority within the e-commerce space. So and you need to remember is a lot of their rankings are on more longer tail queries as well. They're very clever with what they do. I've crawled the hell out of them extensively a number of times because they're such a large site. But yeah, look at where you can grab the enhanced features in the SERPs to make sure that you stand out more, would be the number one. And see if there's any way that you can sort of steer your page in a slightly different way that's going to allow you to pick up on more of, rather than going for a single keyword, like we say, go for a topic, and then rank for other queries, rank that page for other queries that they're not ranking for, that might allow you to grab that conversion that they're not getting.
Brilliant. Okay, that's great. Luci, Kristina, any suggestions?
Yeah, I love this answer, and I would say that utilize this power of quicker decisions, because Amazon is huge and there are so many moving parts. So you can you can utilize this and find the ways how to stand out, see what Amazon doesn't have, what you can add to your pages, because they are really creative what they're doing, but they're automating a lot, which is good, but it can backfire sometimes. And they also copy descriptions from the manufacturer's websites. You can add unique content to your pages. I'm not saying that it will be easy to outrank Amazon or that it's 100% possible, but as Paul said, you can also find other queries that they are not ranking for. And also don't forget about informational user intent. You can build supporting content in terms of FAQ pages, blog posts, and rank for them, and link to your products, build awareness that you are selling these products as well.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks, Kristina. I'm going to let Luci have the last word. So
I would add to that, not to forget the importance of brand, because I think that can go a long way. And I think, for example, we have an e-commerce client who sell through other retailers. So they are sold in John Lewis, for example, and they have naturally been with a huge giant like John Lewis. They are kind of competing against these big brands to sell their own products. But I think that there is a lot to be said for kind of emphasizing the power of your brand and your own story and your USP. There's a lot to be said for that. And I think the other thing as well is, a lot of the times so I'm not an Amazon Prime user. A lot of the times I'll go to Amazon, I want to buy something, but I have to pay delivery. And it's literally just the difference between free delivery from the brand site versus having to pay for it on Amazon. I'll go to the brand site. Again, if it's a higher ticket item or an item that requires a little bit more research, I tend to lean towards the brand, because I I trust that content a little bit more, because of, again, the brand knows that product best. So if you can emphasize those things, and kind of give the customer a reason to come to you, if whether that's because you're a well-known brand, or you've got good trust cues on the site, or again, you can give the customer just that little bit more than what they would expect. It can be free delivery, it can be really awesome customer service. It's just something that sets you apart, that pulls them away from a site like Amazon and to become kind of regulars on your own site.
Yeah, well, I think that sort of sums it up nicely. A variety of different ideas there, sort of tackling them around the fringes rather than head on, and trying to pick your battles, basically. And there's certainly still lots of opportunities for us as SEOs to advise our clients on creative ways to do that. So honestly, thank you all so much today. As always, I've learned a lot. Really enjoyed your company and discussion. So Kristina, Paul, Luci, thank you ever so much. I'm going to hand you back to Carrie, who's going to tell us what's coming up tomorrow.
Great, thank you. Yes, so tomorrow we will have Tina and Oliver join us, sharing their insights on making paid and organic work together. That's all for today. Head over to our blog and see some of the content that we've had written up from some previous Tea Time SEOs. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Thank you ever so much, everyone. Please feel free to share everything, and let's get more people viewing these great speakers. Thanks ever so much. Cheers, Luci.